Stories, the hustle, the grind, the push, the pain, the time, love, the sweat, the tears, goes beyond the lights, the stage, the fame, and the message stays the same. You're listening to the Indie Takeover.
Introducing Lena Bird Miles.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, as dreamers do, fate is kind. She brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longing. Like a boat out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires. If your heart is in your dream, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, fate steps in to see you through. Win or win. It makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. No request is too extreme. When you wish, as dreamers do. Fate steps in and sees you through. Wish upon a star.
Welcome to the Indie Takeover. This is your boy, Jeremy Gibson. And listen, I am super excited because guess what? I have a super special guest today. And some of you may know him. Some of you may not know him. But listen, I've known him for for the majority of my life. I've known him. He is an amazing arranger, producer, photographer, brand strategist, creative, musician, friend, and brother, I want to present to everyone out there in virtual listening land my best friend, my brother, Marcus McCauley. Come on, put your virtual hands together.
Yay!
Woo-hoo!
What's up, you guys? How are you? I'm finally on Indie Takeover.
So listen,
Finally
those that are listening, if you ever have heard the intro, that is the work of myself and Marcus. And listen, this is what we've been doing for a very, very long time. A lot of people have worked with Marcus and in different ways and stuff, but listen, Marcus is always there to help with all my creative endeavors and such. And he is my guest today, and I'm honored because it's rare that I interview people that I'm really, really close to. So this is good because I feel like this conversation is going to be a lot of good information, a wealth of information. But before we go any further, Marcus McCauley, please let the world know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
All right. Well, I think you did a wonderful introduction for me. I just want to say thank you for having me at Indie Takeover. I'm so excited for all the stuff that you are doing and all the wonderful things. You guys know he's a manager too. You know he has a whole full-on management company. He has all kind of different ventures, and you know he's going to take this whole thing over. But I'm just happy to be here. So, hey, my name is Marcus McCauley. I am from Oakland, California. I am a producer, creative director, orchestrator, arranger, photographer, and brand strategist. I love how you said brand strategist. I mean, you brought it all together. So I think I'm just an overall creative. That's what I'll call it. I'm a hybrid creative. That's what I'll call it.
I think that's a hybrid. So Marcus, let's start at the beginning. When did you realize that, I won't just say music, but when did you realize that like just the creative thing, like when you realized like you had a creative bug or like you've been bit by the creative bug, what made you realize like, yo, this is something that I could actually do?
Well, actually, it was my grandmother on my dad's side. My grandmother, I don't know, everybody's grandmother house, well, I think our generation had a piano, right?
Right.
I think our generation is like the last of grandmothers and grandparents having pianos in their homes. But I used to actually go to my grandmother and my grandfather's house on my dad's side. And I used to just bang on the piano and make little melodies and songs or whatever. And I didn't really think much of any of it until my grandmother, she was like, hey, Marcus, you actually playing some tunes or you actually playing some melodies, so I'm going to put you in piano lessons. So I was like, okay, well, piano lessons, that's cool. So my grandmother put me in piano lessons, and I started from there, and that's when I kind of realized that I had a knack for music, but I didn't know how far I was going to actually go into music. I was just playing the piano, but it started there, and then it progressed on. Of course, you know, a lot of our musicians come out the church. So even within the church, I developed it even more further. And then after that, I took off into other different places. I don't know if you want me to go into that. I'm pretty sure you
we'll get
wait.
there. we'll get there. So Marcus, for those that don't know, Marcus and I grew up together at Good Samaritan Cathedral Church of God in Christ, where we had a very unique and I would say a honorable opportunity to kind of be raised under a lot of really solid musicians, like music. So Lawrence Matthews at one point was minister of music. Carl Wheeler, both of our uncles were minister of music. We would have Dana Robinson come. We would have, I mean, there were so many musicians that would come through maybe just to sit in and to play or to actually come and teach. What would you say, like, during that developmental time at Good Samaritan? Because if people really knew, like, we developed all of, like, Gospel Chops was the thing at one point. Everybody was watching Gospel Chops, but we developed, like, all the ugly stuff that we used to do, all the songs we used to write and all that stuff. Like, those were opportunities where it really shaped us in how we learned how to deal with our own craft, and also deal with other people, right? Like how to kind of glean and balance, and become our own. So in your story, in your journey as a musician, right? Like, how did you use church, school? Because we both had schooling, and as far as music goes, how did you balance that in the, before you got to, college and doing all that stuff? What were some of the things that you could say you remembered that helped you kind of develop into realizing, like, this is my style, or this is what I want to sound like, or whatever?
Well, like you said, I think Good Samaritan definitely was like it was a safe place for all of us to put our ideas out, or just at least try.
Right.
And think we had such a support system. So, like, even we talk about our peers, but like even our parents, like, and our family, like, we could make the most ugliest song you ever think of,
right? And
they are going to be there to cheer us on and give us an encouraging word. So I think at the time we were at Good Samaritan, it actually was a safe place for us to practice our gifts without getting killed about it. So that was the thing that was pretty interesting. I think even during that process, a lot of people even didn't know I can play, or people didn't know I was even musical like that. And I even think that at Good Samaritan, in our time, it was almost like a place where it was like, I wouldn't say the underdog, like an underdog training, but we weren't as exposed to everything at such an early age that gave us a chance to really work on our gifts. I don't know if that makes sense. Absolutely. So it was like we didn't get super jaded at 14 or 15 or 16. We just practiced our gifts and have fun with it. Right. And like you said, me and Jeremy, we used to write songs, and we used to create all kind of different things. I used to be at the piano. Our songs would be like 20 minutes long, and we still and the little changes that I will learn, I'll put everything in one song. Right. So I really looked at Good Samaritan as a training ground and a good place. And even with we had a crew of I call them family. I don't even say they're friends, but it's like we, even beyond us, even with them, we all exercised our gifts together. So we exercised our strengths and our weaknesses. Jeremy was always the one to put stuff together. He made things happen. It didn't matter if you had 2 people, 3, 4 people, we are going to have a production. And I was going to be the musical director. So absolutely. We pushed each other, honestly. It was like we just supported each other at the age, and I think we really fed into each other too as well, and encouraged and saying like, hey, you know what, you are talented, you are special, you do have something. Because even throughout that time, it's very sensitive to be around people that's very supportive. And I don't think we killed each other at that time. No. Go ahead.
No, I would agree. I think especially in church, there's so many. Church is cutthroat.
It's cutthroat. It can be cutthroat.
Like, I mean, we'll support, but when it comes to, like, we know singers, like, singers are coming through, like, they would kill on an average Sunday. Ain't no cameras, ain't no social media, ain't no nothing. And folks would be tearing up the house.
That's why we probably had such a good time, because we had no cameras and social media.
Right. And the funny thing is, like, I remember how our Thursday night youth programs, we would, it was like youth on display, right? So whatever talent you had, whatever, so it was the praise dancers. It was the, if you had a song, if you, and so I remember, like, during, I don't know if it was during summer, but I remember I would write songs at home like that Thursday or that Wednesday or that Thursday, right? And I knew that I was gonna sing that song Thursday night at youth night, right? So I was like, oh, let me, get because I wasn't a musician. I wanted to be, I didn't play, but I would, I wouldn't play in public. I would play at home.
You got a few songs under your fingers.
Right. But the funny thing is, like, when we got older, I would write stuff and I would play privately, and then I would send it to you, or I'll play it for you, like, well, this is how I want the song
to be.
And that's how songs ended up being like 15, 20 minutes. Because we would use everything that we knew.
Everything, yeah.
But so as we got older, of course, we had opportunities to go away to school and do different things. And you were fortunate enough to attend the most prestigious contemporary music college in the world, Berklee College of Music. Tell us where, how did that come about? How was that experience? Yeah.
So I didn't go to a performance arts high school. I went to Oakland High. And,
so sorry.
Yeah. But so it was like in Oakland or in the Bay Area, especially in the Oakland Public School District, you had Skyline, and that was like the art school. I think who else were like the
Castlemont had a choir. Right.
Yeah, they had a choir. Right. I think Skyline was kind of killing it and dominated for the Oakland Public School for that. But I had Oakland High. Oakland High was more academic for the public area. A lot of the kids went to UC Berkeley, not Berkeley. But it was so crazy. It's like I still was very interested in music, and I just kind of did my thing outside of school. We had an orchestra in that whole deal. I participated in everything in that. I mean, everything that they did have. But I think I was on the internet one day, and I fell upon Berklee College of Music summer program.
Okay.
And I was like in 11th grade. And so I didn't really know too much about Berklee. I just said like, oh, wow, it's a whole music program. And they teach you how to do contemporary music, not just classical or not just, one thing. So I applied for the LA program, Berklee in LA. I didn't make it. So I was like, man, I really want to go to Berklee. So I started becoming Berklee obsessed. I don't know if there's any musicians out there in the younger age. I think a lot of musicians have become Berklee obsessed and just wanted to get in. So in my 11th grade year, I literally applied to San Francisco State and Berklee College of Music. And I got accepted to Berklee College of Music. I never finished the application with San Francisco State, and I just went straight on from there. That was my first choice, and I got my first choice. And I was just like, it was like a dream come true. Honestly, It was a dream come true.
I remember going to visit you at Berklee, and of course, we were still young, but I saw the growth, because you would come home on winter break or summer break, and we were at that laptop trying to create a full album. We were making
just about
demos of like everything. Like, oh, I just made this track, right to it, and those songs I hope never come out. But it was, I think, just that hunger and that the spontaneity and just the consistency of creating. And so for those like in the audience that want to pursue a career in this, and like Marcus said, like, yeah, I manage, I host this show, but at the end of the day, like at the beginning of all of this, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be an artist. That was my goal, but I felt like that was the only thing that made sense because I didn't see anything else kind of line up for me, right? It really wasn't until I came to Berkeley in Boston that I felt that the options and the opportunities were a little more clear to me, right? Because I think when I went to see you there, I was at Cal State East Bay, and I was studying music education, and I kept battling like, do I really want to teach music? Like, is it, and I would call you about my theory homework, like, Marcus, I don't, and there were questions that, it wasn't that I couldn't do it. I had to ask myself, is this the direction that I really want to go, right? And I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but during the time, I think you were kind of like, it was like the end of your junior year of college or getting ready for your senior year, but you had a meeting with like a counselor or something, and you were playing like some of your music, like things that you had produced and stuff like that. And you were like preparing, I guess you had to present, like say what you wanted to do. Was the transition, because I'm pretty sure there's people that are listening that are maybe in college, going to college, coming out of college, but at that point where you're kind of now like, okay, once school is over, once I'm done doing this work, were you sure? Like, where did you see yourself going after college?
Man, that's a wonderful question. If you're in the music, I think I kind of kept a good head on my shoulders during college, because I realized even with Berkeley, I always called it a music industry. It's simulation. Because even with the school, it's great, and they have all these different celebrities will come. You may have Quincy Jones, Smokey Robinson. You might get Rodney Jerkins, just all kind of different people. And you get close to these people, it makes you feel like you're there with them.
Right.
But in my head, I was like, okay, this is basically an assimilation of what the music industry can be.
Right.
When that was so funny. You remember the counselor meeting. I forgot all about that. Even with that transition, I wanted to be, honestly, at the beginning, I just wanted to do orchestra music.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was just film scoring or orchestration and work with strings. And I just wanted to do that at first. And then I realized that after I graduated, I almost had to go back down the totem pole, because I think when I left Berkeley, I was like the arranger. They was calling me to do all kind of different things, and I was the go-to. But after school, I had to start back at zero. It's like, okay, now I have to build a career. And I went back to Oakland. I had to figure it out. I did a lot of orchestration work, and I still do orchestration work. But from there, I started with my love first, to develop that, to see how I would move in that particular industry, which was the orchestral thing. And I learned a lot from there, from that. And I realized that the way the industry works, or even your career in life, it goes by seasons. Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, I start off with orchestration heavy. I was looking for, I did a bunch of string arrangements for different projects. I think one of my first string arrangements that actually get cut for a project was your uncle, was Lawrence, and you told him that get Marcus on your project, and then David got me in. That was like my horn and string arrangement. That was like my first gospel cut. Yeah, with Lawrence, Matthew, Uncle Lawrence. That's what we call him, Uncle Lawrence. So Lawrence Matthew. But I did orchestration heavily, and then I realized, like, okay, I have to make a living. Yeah. I can make a living doing this, but the top guys that did that all the time, they were about 50 or 60 years old that got all the big contracts. Right. But it was discouraging. It's like, okay, I'm going to always keep on doing this, but I want to find something else that I can bring more income in, because you have to work as an artist and you have to pay your bills. Now, being an artist, a lot of people don't understand, like, yeah, it's music, but we are still human beings. We have to live and eat. Right. So it was like, okay, Marcus, you have to figure out how to make a life for yourself, or, move into a direction where you could be financially stable while you pursue your musical dream. Now, the thing that was crazy, I never had a straight up 9 to 5. everything that I've done has been music related, but it's been different themes in the music industry.
Right.
Early on, I didn't get stuck and say, this is all I'm going to do. And if I can't do this, then I'm just not going to try anything else.
Right.
And I think if you're not able to be flexible in this or have an open mind, it's really going to be hard for you to persevere this industry. I don't care if you sing country music or even if you even in music education, you have to know how to be flexible and have an open mind too.
Absolutely.
Going back to seasons, I was like, okay, well, I learned a lot. I think for the first 2 to 3 years, I did orchestration heavily, and of course, I played at church.
Yeah.
But I did orchestration heavily. I had like a whole team, a whole squad. I was doing people projects and doing people records, and I had my string contract and that whole deal. And it was wonderful. And I learned a lot, and I learned stuff that I will always keep with me, and stuff I will use now. But business-wise, some of the decisions I made didn't make sense. So I was like, and that's how I started getting a little bit more grip on the music business, the realistic music business.
Yeah.
See, I got a degree in contemporary writing and music production, and I got a degree in music business and management. But it's different when you study about something than actually doing it.
Right, absolutely.
So understanding about budgets, understanding about contract, understanding about how money works, and understanding what your value is too as well. And that was a process too, because a lot of times with younger musicians and younger producers, you just want to get on.
Yeah.
You just want to get on, and you come across people that take advantage of that. And then you have to somehow be confident enough to say, you know what, this is my value, and this is how much I feel that this project is worth.
Right.
For me. So it's like you have that transition time, but it took the 3 to 4 or 5 years for me to be confident in that. And then the quality of my work got to the point where I can say that. And that's the thing. But I mean, that's like a part of it.
And I will say, because of course I've been in all of this with you. So before the TikTok, before Instagram, you were pretty innovative in creating a space for visual representation of what you do, right?
Yes.
So if someone doesn't know you, right, like you were very intentional about creating, and I don't know if you knew that you were doing this, but you were making a digital footprint or like a resume for yourself before that was really even popular, right?
Didn't know.
Like literally getting fabric from Joann's Fabric, and making a backdrop, right? And then showcasing your arrangements, right? Like and we're gonna get to that, but I will say, like now, like even just having this conversation, like I was managing back then, like I didn't even know, but I was able to advocate for you and to push for you because I had something to show. Like I wasn't just saying, hey, put my boy on because we're cool. I was able to say, hey, have Marcus do the arrangements for this because listen to this, I was able to have a reference, so kind of how did you start that? Like what made you say, you know what, I want to start doing YouTube videos?
I know, look, I glanced all the way. That was like a big part of my career, honestly. That kind of really put me on to get known at the time. Now, they called me somebody posted on Facebook, I'm a elder millennial now. So they did a shout out to all the old people that started off in social media land. It was like they put my name as one of the original musicians that did the clips when YouTube was actually fun. They didn't have algorithms shutting everything down. But with that, I think my first video was Willy Wonka, Pure Imagination. So I just was playing on my piano. I had my laptop computer. The quality was kind of trash. It was like whatever. But I played that, and I had my orchestration behind it. So I just played it, and then I would write my orchestration, and I would program it and play along with it on the piano. And I put that clip out, and it started going crazy. And I
Yeah.
was just like, wow, but it showed the orchestration that surrounded it. And then
Right.
people was like, okay, this dude writes strings or whatever. I was actually
Right.
putting the music in Finale, and Finale's a music notation program. I was actually writing all the notes. And then people realized, like, okay, this dude is actually writing music and
Right. Right.
he's playing. He can play too. So after that clip, I went on to the next clip. I went on to the next clip. And you did one clip. We did the Flintstones. And I was
Right.
taking on like hard string arrangements and that whole deal. We were
Yeah.
executing it vocal wise, the whole deal with you and Lena on that one.
Yeah.
And then as the time went on, it evolved to it being more utilizing other people, real string real string players and that whole deal. And I would take other people's sessions and just make this whole deal. That's how Marcus McCauley sessions even came about.
Right.
So I did that for a good season. With that, it got me to have opportunities to orchestrate for Jennifer Hudson. I orchestrated for the R&B artist Joe. I did TV work. Remember, I did the webisodes from that goofy preacher's wife, that whole deal. I started doing film scores. I did 2 film scores and that stuff just from me doing that. So I realized, like, okay, well, Marcus, I didn't have a legacy family in music. Like, I didn't have a last name or was in a pastor's son, right? I didn't have a platform like that. So I had to start from zero of me being known. I didn't really have too many people to put me on like that. So I was like, well, maybe use YouTube and I could probably put myself on in the showcase. And then after that, when people realized, like, okay, this is what he does, and then I started getting so many other opportunities. And what you said was perfect. You said I created a digital footprint, and you said you pulled from that to show people what I can do. You didn't just say, oh, he's just because my friend put him on because he's my friend. Like, no, he's my friend, but he actually know how to actually do this work and be legit about it.
Right.
So, so that's how that whole thing started.
That's super key, I think, for creatives, like aspiring artists, to realize whatever you put out, like, I think now it's different. Like, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have TikTok. I mean, there was Twitter, but now it's like people are pumping out content
like
constantly, right? And it's like, doing this. There's trainings and webinars about how to create these videos, how to do all this stuff.
How to get a big following and all that stuff.
Right. But at that time, everything was very organic. Just very, we didn't, whatever we heard from people, like, we were, like, if we saw you, there were clips, I remember we would be on YouTube and we would watch those clips over and over again. And those clips, I went back to watch a couple of them now, clips like of Kim Burrell or like Tony Scruggs, like different singers that I listen to. And those clips like 6-8 minutes, 10 minutes long. And it's like, and we would watch them repeatedly, right? And now the attention span is so short. It's like a viral video is what, maybe a minute, maybe 60 seconds. Like,
it's so funny that you said that, because even now it's like, it's hard for me to pump out material. And my brother said a wonderful thing. He's like, yeah, Marcus, pump out more material. He said, you don't have to don't think too much about it. You just put the content out there. It's about quantity. And it's like with me, it's like I like to always do something innovative, but you will put all this work in there, and if your algorithm or your hashtag is not right,
it'll get lost.
It'll get lost. So like, I think like what you said, it was so much more fun at that time, especially when it was organic. It wasn't just putting out and just putting out material to just get likes and to get monetized,
Right. And so it kind of leads me into what I think is pretty much the meat of what Indie Takeover is about. Is I feel like to those that are, especially coming out of pandemic and all of that stuff, creatives need, and independent artists or whoever it is, need the reminder of what the reason is that they started, right?
Yes.
Like, you have to be in love with the thing. Like, you have to know that, like, this is what I've been called to do. For those that are listening, I would love for you to take note of the fact, and I'm not putting you on blast, this is not a dig or not shade or anything, but it's actually like a testimony, like a really good a thing to boast about. Like, you've never had to work a 9 to 5 because you have always been intentional about serving with your purpose, right? Like serving with your gift. Like, we've served at churches together. We've worked, I mean, not just, and most people know us from church, right? But we've done R&B gigs. We've done all time. I mean, literally, we just school. Like, I mean, we've taught stuff together. I mean, there's been like such a wide array of things and opportunities where when you're connected with people, you always want to be able to trust that the recommendation that you have given is going to make you look good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I bring that up to say, years ago, it was probably at this point over maybe 11, 12 years ago, maybe like 13 years ago, New Kids on the Block came to California, Northern California, and you had made a recommendation for me to get some singers together for the New Kids on the Block reunion or like revival tour type thing. And I got singers together, right? I rehearsed them. I did all the things you weren't even, I don't think you had graduated yet. I don't think.
know. I was in school.
Yeah. And I remember that, like, I mean, you trusted me enough to know that, like, he gonna take care of it. And I brought on singers that I knew I could trust, that I knew was, and that was literally singing in front of 30,000 people.
Yeah, arena show. That was a arena show, yeah.
Right. And it's like, it's those moments. And it's not just because a lot of people be like, oh, they best friends. They grew up together since they was, little boys. But even as grown men, we still hold each other accountable to do the things and perform at the level of excellence that we know each other. It's like I think we are able to function, and we learn that, through having hard knockout conversations, but really knowing that, like, so Marcus has produced an incredible Christmas show called Holiday at the Temple, right? Where it, over the past 4 or 5 years, it has really grown to, epic proportions where people anticipate it. But he strategically has built that, right, to be something that people now have an expectation of nothing less than high quality performance.
Pressure.
Right. But you talk about pressure and then have this person ask you, hey, can you manage my event? Like, that's pressure. But I'm honored to be able to work. I mean, I remember when you did your Going Places and Coming Home. I forgot what the concert was called, but you did a concert and you flew Turtle. I think it was Vansel. It was a whole bunch of. They
all playing for A-list artists,
right? But you brought them all out here. And I remember Dad created the thing, for the drum set, like the platform. I mean, and you changed the church. It was epic. Like, you showed a level of excellence and quality. And I think we were maybe 22, maybe 21,
and not even with a crazy budget. And you know what? I'll tell you this: what I learned. Even when you have dreams and stuff, like, a lot of times when we try to do something, we automatically say, I don't have the money. I don't have the money.
We do. Yeah.
I can't do it. I don't have the money. But I think at that time, even with like Holiday at the Temple, and although it costs, now I'm not going to lie, it costs money to do and put shows on and to do it correctly. But what really works is when you don't have all the money, or you don't have all those. Well, I'll say this. If you don't have all the money, you have to pull on your resources.
Absolutely.
And then your creativity have to go into overdrive. So it's kind of like, if I don't have the money to have that, what can I creatively do to still keep their attention? Or what can I make that would be 75% less of me actually getting that person
Yeah.
there. And I think a lot of my skills came from wanting to do stuff at a high level, but didn't have the budget.
Right.
So I learned how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I think my thing is like when I have a vision, I try to do my best for that vision to come true at the highest level as possible.
Right.
And that was like even one of the things, like when you just saying like, you know, we was doing all these shows, and you know, we were only 22 and all that stuff years old. I'm just saying, like, our drive was so high that we wanted to make sure that we had the best as possible. You even use your resources for that. Remember you had Karen, she was going around, and we had we had lights and all that stuff there, and you know, we blew the church out, but we the power went out, but my dad was to the rescue. But I mean, even with that, it was just like we had that idea, and we just did to our best. Like, we just put our all into it. We never did anything halfway. Now, it could have. Now we probably look back at it now and be like, oh man, that was kind of corny. But that was the best corny thing we could think of. Because, you know, that's how you grow.
Absolutely. And I think and we're gonna wrap it up, but you bring it back to kind of like how we talked about how we grew up. And I remember being at Good Samaritan and just creatively having the freedom to kind of do, I won't say whatever I wanted, but I had a lot of freedom to be creative. And I remember sitting down with Bishop Murray one time, and I told him I had this big dream of doing like this huge youth revival, right? I want to do this huge youth conference, something we've never done before. I mean, you know, I was like, I want to do this. I want to bring this. I want to, you know, and he listened to me, and I remember his response. He smiled, you know, and he was like, okay. He was like, well, we're not quite there. He was like, how about I give you 2 days? I give you a Saturday, the daytime part of a Saturday. We won't do no Saturday night service or nothing like that. But he was like, I'll give you a Saturday and a Sunday morning. He was like, let's see what you do with that. I said, say less. I mean, I don't think that was my response then, but if it was now, it was like that. Good. I'm happy with that, right? And we literally squeeze, like they say, when life give you lemons, you know, make chocolate cake, because it's like they gave us, you know, whatever they gave us, and we created what, like, the most incredible experiences, you know. And I'm talking about church, but like, it really applies to so much of the other things that we have done in our lives, right?
Like even from there, I was saying, like, even from your story from there, that was the attitude that I even had for Holiday at the Temple.
Right.
So it was like, even bringing all those different artists together, it was like, even just that by itself took a lot of strategy.
Yeah.
You're dealing with creative people and artists and singers and stuff like that. Even beyond the money, if you can get people to work together and put something cohesive, and if you have the attitude to, even as a leader, my position was to make sure all this stuff happens music-wise, that people are showcased, and everybody at least feel like they are all special, not just one bigger than the other. And that took a whole, that was just art by itself. But that comes down to what you just said. That comes down to your personality and your integrity. Now, I'll just say this. You can put all this stuff together, but if your personality is horrible, or you don't know how to read the room, or you don't know how to even feel what other people are feeling, it's like you're going to have a little bit of a hard time pursuing this type of career, because you kind of remember, like, I'm trying to put my dream across, but I look at all these artists, I look at all these people that's helping me, even the musicians that's playing with me, everybody has a dream.
Yeah.
So it's like, what can I do to just at least try to showcase everyone, not just myself, but I think I kind of accomplished showcasing other people so they can get put onto other different things. Yeah. Or they can be exposed or see them in a different light. Like, I'm having gospel singers singing classical music. or I'm
Yeah.
having gospel singers singing jazz music, or I'm having gospel singers singing really arranged type of music, not
Yeah.
just going for it. Like, and I think a lot of of them say, "Oh, I'm super nervous." It's like, well, why are you nervous? I get it now
Yeah.
because when I was arranging the music, it's like you can't mess up because you'll throw the charts
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
you'll throw the sheet music off, and so it was just like I didn't realize the level I even learned from Berkeley or even from my experience. I was able to expose people to that type of work ethic.
Right. Right.
And it was just like, I mean, that's one thing you were just saying. I know we're about to close pretty soon, but I think like out of all of this stuff, all of this stuff, of course, God first. But if you don't have the work ethic, just forget about it. Because you got to do stuff when you don't feel like
Yeah.
it. You got to do stuff when you're discouraged. You got to do stuff when you don't even see, like, oh, I don't even know if I'm
Yeah.
going to be able to make a living here. You
Yeah.
don't even see your next check.
Right.
You still have to do the work.
Right.
And that's the thing that kind of separates the people that do it professionally from the people that think they want to do it. It's more
Right.
than just singing and playing and putting stuff out there. You have to work on your dream where it doesn't look like nothing's
Absolutely.
happening. And if you stay
Absolutely.
consistent at doing that, it's like you're unstoppable. You're gonna always have good times. You can always have bad times. And
Right.
you're gonna have good times, but it's like, can you stay consistent?
Yeah.
And that's what the winners are to me. It's like if you're able to still be consistent in this very fickle industry.
Yeah.
And like, look at you doing that. It's like you have a lot that you do, and you have a lot of responsibility, but you still make sure that indie takeover is
Yeah.
going forth.
Yeah. And it's not easy, right? Like you said, but I think if those that are listening, I hope y'all taking notes. Like this is good nuggets to pull from. Consistency is key. Like it falls right in line with work ethic. And I'm just echoing everything that you said, so people can get it in their heads. You are not going to achieve anything that you want to if you don't have the drive to get there. You have to gas yourself up. You can't, because you won't always have the audience. You won't always have the people, as close as we are, people say, oh, is Marcus your best friend? I think at this point, I mean, you're absolutely my brother. Like this is we, as close as we are in our friendship, like I'm sure there's times where you still feel like there's like I'm by myself, and it's like, because we don't always know, like you don't always know when I need to hear encouragement. My wife may not know when I need encouragement. So it's like, we have to find it in ourselves to stay so motivated, as if, it's a life or death situation. If it really means that to you, right?
It really means that to you. And then too, you know what I go by, and like you say, you could feel like you're alone in the situation, but I go by, and this probably sounds kind of hard or whatever, but if this is my dream that I'm pursuing, I don't feel like anybody owed me that encouragement. I don't know, that might sound kind of weird or crazy, but it's like I don't go around saying like, man, Jeremy should have called me because I haven't said anything. And, I'm encouraged. He should at least encourage me from time to time. We've been knowing each other forever.
Right.
And it's like at some time, you're going to have to suck some stuff up.
Right.
It's like, it's not Jeremy's responsibility for me to get motivated or for me to feel that, I can do something. Yeah, encouragement happens, but you could be having one of the worst days ever, and I'm not saying much or nothing at all, or your significant other not saying anything, because they are not you. So it's like, I don't feel like sometimes it's like, oh, they owe me a pat on the shoulder, or even after I do something or whatever, I don't expect people to call me and say how great I was. It's like I come to the point where it's kind of like, you know what? I thought that was one of the best things I've done. I'm satisfied with it.
Yeah. And you gotta be.
Move on.
You gotta be.
I'm a type of person, I think you tell me this all the time, I will do something to move on.
Yeah. And sometimes you need people that are reminders of like, hey, remember because you do the same thing for me. Like you'll bring up stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. or I wasn't, and you never really realize like all that you kind of put into your work, right? But I mean, we're gonna wrap up. I want you to share whatever what you have coming up. Any words of advice, like what would you close with for those that are hungry for like working in this industry, wanting to do and pursue, they want to stop their 9 to 5, what would you say to that person? And then also tell us what you got going on.
Okay, well, first off, I think I said it early on. Have an open mind and be flexible and be willing to learn always. You're not gonna never know it all, but be willing to learn new things, new practices, new things that can enhance what you're already doing. Like right now, of course, I do music production, music producer. I just finished doing musical directing for a Broadway play. I do all these different things, but the way Marcus McCauley said it actually evolved into a one-stop shop situation. So I offer record label services along with music production. So you come to me, you have your idea, you can go what you kind of want for your project, the whole deal. I make it happen all in-house. So even with that, I had to learn how to, work a camera or do the Photoshop. Of course, you don't have to do all these things on your own, but I'm glad I did because I know now how all these different sectors of the music industry work. And when I do hire somebody, I know the language, I know how to communicate to them, I know how to, maneuver. But I didn't just stop at the piano. I didn't just stop at that. I picked up a camera and I start studying.
Yeah.
And it could be something else for you. But with that, what it allowed me to do is actually open up more income streams.
Yeah.
So I could be more relaxed in my gift. If I want to do music production, playing or being an artist, that whole deal, I have more than one thing. And it's less stressful when I don't have to depend on that one thing to satisfy all what I need to satisfy.
Right.
So you might not be interested in doing all what I'm doing, but now today, you have to be some type of a hybrid. You have to be able to be like, okay, I do this, but I also can offer you this. Because now what they're wanting now these days, they want you to do more than one thing. If you're a producer, they want you to be able to mix and sometimes mix or master. Or if you're a producer, you need to know how to vocal arrange. Or if you're a producer, you need to know how to communicate and put budgets and all that stuff together. It's so much more than just me making a beat or me just, laying a track down. You become valuable when you can solve a problem.
That's
when
good.
You're able to solve a problem.
Good.
That's how you are able to make a good income in this industry. People are not going to just hire you because of just your gift. But if you do have that gift and you're able to sing, but you can also arrange and you can also do budgets for, let's just say, backgrounds, or you know how to contract, or you become that guy. It's more on the business side. You're solving a problem for them. So that's how you get $1 to be attached. For my situation, I'm solving a problem where an artist can come to me, they can go to one place, and they don't have to go to 10 different people to get their stuff done.
Right.
So that means that what it would take one person to do one single, it might take them 5 months to do it on their own. When it comes to me, it could take you 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's my service? I mean, my service, I could get to I'll solve the problem of them meeting their deadlines, and I'll solve the problem for them not to have to think.
Yeah.
But they have to pay me for them not to have to think about all the stuff they have to do. That's where the value is at.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that's my value there, and then I'll solve that problem. And once I understood, it took me a long time to understand that. Once I understood it and wrote it out and put it in a PDF format, it just started coming. I understand what I do now.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. So good. But yeah, so listen, Marcus, tell us where we can follow you, where we can support what you have going on, because if those of you are just figuring out who Marcus is a wealth of knowledge. He is experienced, he's educated, he is knowledgeable. Sorry to sound redundant, but Marcus is a great asset to whatever room and project he is added in and he walks into. So So listen, if you got yourself together or you're trying to get yourself together and you want some feedback, we're both available, but Marcus is the guest, so we gonna highlight him. So Marcus, tell us how we can follow you, how we can support your brand, all that you got going on. Let me know.
Okay, so everything is just about Marcus McCauley. So Instagram is Marcus McCauley, Facebook is Marcus McCauley, then my business page is Marcus McCauley Sessions. So, there's Marcus McCauley _ for Instagram. So I have glasses on. There's another Marcus McCauley that's a rapper. I'm not him. So you can follow me on those platforms. You just put Marcus McCauley and you see this face. That's me. Oh, there you go.
So listen. Y'all follow Marcus McCauley on all social media platforms. Blow up everything he got going on. Support him simply because he is worth being supported. He's quality. He come from good stock. I love his family because they're my family. But Marcus, I am grateful that you joined the Indie Takeover for this episode. We gotta have you back because I think there's so much more that we could be talking about. You were like, what are we gonna talk about for that long?
It went fast.
Listen, but thank you so much again for joining the Indie Takeover. Again, it's been an honor. Y'all can catch us next week, same time, same place, with some even more great experiences and conversations. This is your boy, host Jeremy Gibson, and my guest, my brother, Marcus McCauley.
All right. Thanks for having me. Indie Takeover, you guys.
Woo-hoo.
Support. Dope platform.